All right, let's dive right into today's explainer. We're looking at a truly thrilling excerpt from the Mahabharata. And what I love about this section is how it brilliantly bridges these massive magical machinations happening up in heaven with the very grounded emotional struggles happening down on earth. It's honestly just a perfect example of how these ancient epics weave mind-bending cosmic stakes with deeply human anxieties. So, we've broken this down into 5 parts for today. We're going to start with a cosmic mystery up in the celestial realm, and by the end, we'll wrap up with a surprisingly practical, earthy prescription for anxiety. Let's jump straight into part 1, A Mortal Among the Gods. Okay, so our story kicks off with a setup that is honestly pretty relatable. It's that feeling of walking into a room and seeing something completely out of place. The great Rishi Lomasa, who is this incredibly powerful ascetic, decides to pay a visit to Indra, the lord of the celestials. Lomasa walks in, bows respectfully to the chief of the gods, and then he just stops dead in his tracks. He's absolutely stunned, because right there, casually taking up half of Indra's own seat is Arjuna. Now remember, Arjuna is a mortal man. He's a Kshatriya warrior. To see a human just chilling, sharing the throne with the king of the gods, that's completely unheard of. Lomasa is basically acting as our audience surrogate right here. His internal monologue is going a mile a minute. He's standing there silently wondering, what incredible acts of ascetic merit did this guy perform? What regions were conquered? How in the world did a mortal obtain a seat that is literally worshipped by the gods themselves? But Lomasa doesn't even have to ask out loud, because Sakra, which is another name for Indra, immediately reads Lamasa's mind and smiles. That brings us right into part 2, where Indra reveals some major cosmic identities. So to answer Lamasa's silent, panicked questions, Indra decides to decode who these heroes really are. He tells Lomasa, look, Arjuna isn't just some mortal who happened to take birth as the son of Kunti. He actually originated from this highly secretive place called Vadari. Vadari is described as this legendary sacred asylum located right by the source of the river Ganga. And get this, it is completely invisible to regular gods and even to illustrious rishis. Yet it's worshipped by these high-level celestial beings, the Siddhas and Sharanas. So this invisible asylum, that was Arjuna's ancient cosmic home. This whole exchange perfectly illustrates the epic's incredibly complex alias system. It's like a giant puzzle. Indra reveals that Arjuna and the supreme god Vishnu are actually reincarnations of 2 ancient blazing rishis known as Nara and Narayana. They used to live together back in that invisible asylum of Vadari, and now they've been born on Earth for a very specific purpose, to lighten the burden of the world. And as you can see, the source text uses so many different names for them. Arjuna is Falguna, Jishnu Dhananjaya, Vishnu is Hari, the slayer of Madhu, and so on. It's this massive, interconnected cosmic network of identities. All right, so why is Arjuna actually hanging out in heaven? That takes us to part 3. Arjuna hasn't just come up to heaven to relax on Indra's throne. He's there because they are facing a terrifying cosmic threat. Indra tells Lomasa about a faction of fierce asuras called the Nivatakavachas. And they aren't just sitting around. They are actively, right in this very moment, planning the total destruction of the gods. They literally want to wipe out the entire celestial realm. And these guys aren't just your run-of-the-mill troublemakers. Thanks to this mysterious boon they acquired, they have become incredibly arrogant. They have zero respect for the gods anymore. They lurk deep down in the dark nether regions, and they pose a threat so absolute that even if all the Celestials teamed up into one giant army, they'd still be completely incapable of defeating them. The gods are, quite frankly, utterly outmatched. Which naturally leads us to part 4, and a very logical question about supreme power. Looking at this literally impossible threat, you're probably wondering, well, why doesn't the supreme god Vishnu just step in and wipe out these demons himself? The answer Indra gives is so fascinating. It actually reminds me a lot of the overkill trope you see in modern comic books. Indra fully admits Vishnu could do it. I mean, in the past, Vishnu destroyed the illustrious sons of Sagar and the Nagas with just a glance. But Indra warns, you really shouldn't urge the slayer of Madhu into action for a task that is comparatively insignificant. Why? Because Vishnu is a mighty, swelling mass of energy. If he unleashes that unimaginable power on these demons, the collateral damage could accidentally consume the entire universe. So since deploying Vishnu is basically like using a nuke to kill a fly, and way too dangerous for the fabric of reality, the job falls to Arjuna. But Arjuna can't just run in unprepared.
He has to stay in the celestial realm until he completes a very specific heavenly curriculum. Of course, this includes gaining sanctified prowess of arms and mastering celestial weapons. But here's the twist. His training also requires him to master the science of celestial dancing, as well as instrumental and vocal music. It turns out, to be the ultimate cosmic warrior, you have to master the fine arts just as much as you master your weapons.
And that brings us to our final section today, Part 5, Healing the Fever of the Heart. So we're going to shift gears now, moving away from these massive cosmic stakes in heaven all the way down to the deeply relatable, everyday anxieties of King Yudhishthira on Earth. Indra and Arjuna officially commission Rishi Lomasa to travel back to the mortal realm. They have a vital message for Yudhishthira, who has been completely eaten up with anxiety over his brother's disappearance and the massive impending war. Indra sees this very human stress, and he decides he needs to intervene. What Indra gives him is essentially a clear, step-by-step prescription for his mental health. Step 1. Stop worrying about Arjuna. He's safe, he's training, and he's going to come back a master of weapons. Step 2. Take some action. Go visit various sacred shrines across the earth. Step 3. Bathe in the sacred waters at these shrines. And Step 4. Through this pilgrimage, cleanse your sins and allow the, quote, favor of your heart to abate. I just love that phrase. Indra is basically telling the mortal king, hey, you need to step away from your worldly worries, go on a spiritual retreat, wash away your psychological burdens, and then you can face your kingdom with a clear conscience. But of course, this is Earth, and Earth is still a dangerous place, so there's a bit of a catch to this peaceful retreat. Indra tells Lomasa, protect thou the king from those cannibals. Using his immense ascetic power, Lomasa is going to have to act as a magical bodyguard. He needs to protect Yudhishthira from these fierce, literal flesh-eating Rakshasas that hide out in the rugged mountain steppes while they're on this pilgrimage. So bridging these cosmic and earthly realms perfectly, Lomasa accepts the mission. He descends from the celestial throne room and arrives safely down in the Kamyaka woods. And sure enough, he finds Yudhishthira there, surrounded by ascetics and his brothers, and he is ready to deliver this divine reassurance to a deeply troubled mortal king. Yudhishthira's ancient lesson is honestly just as profound today as it was back then. It leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. Before you face your own greatest battles, how do you step back, cure the fever of your heart, and find your own inner peace? It's literally a strategy handed down from the gods themselves. Thank you so much for exploring the Mahabharata with us today on this explainer. See you next time.